Okay, we're ready whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
All right. Let's call this to order 8:32. Get a roll call.
Miss Anthony?
Here.
Miss Bright?
Present.
Miss Clement, let me know she was not gonna make it today. Mr. Hayes?
Oh, here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Fine. Mr. Mayor?
Present.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor is gonna have to leave at 9 a.m. Ms. Shaw?
Present.
And Mr. Stevie?
I'm here.
We have four, Mr. Chair.
Awesome. Will we have remain quorum when Dan leaves?
Yes, the minimum is 3 DRB members to make
Okay,
quorum.
great. Just confirming. Review and approval of the February 20 action report and meeting minutes. I'll move that we approve those.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded from Rosemary. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none. I'll do a quick call to the audience here before we jump in. And if there's anyone on the call now that doesn't have business related to this applicant or is on the board, to get a couple moments to address the board. I don't see anyone popping in, so let's move on to item 4, Tucson Warehouse and Transfer.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, this is the case that DRB reviewed at the last meeting as a courtesy review, so they're back here for the formal review. And just very quickly, so this is the rehab of the upper floors of the current Benjamin Supply Store. They're gonna be changing the use from storage into retail space. And they're gonna have a kitchen and demonstration and culinary events. They're also proposing improvements to the parking area, new landscaping. It's in the RNA. Some of the buildings on site they're contributing, so they had to be reviewed by the PRS. And last week they did, and they recommended approval with the conditions that I apologize. I just emailed them to you last night. But I can read them. The first condition is the existing cornice detail and evidence of carriage door opening should be shown on the northeast and northwest corners, and revised elevations should be provided for minor review. PRS is number 2. PRS is generally supportive of the new glazing system and infill walls, but the extent of the new glazing is cause for concern that contributing status may be lost. Number 3, the applicant is encouraged to further discuss the glazing and infill strategy with the city's historic preservation officer and with SHPO to ensure contributing status is maintained. And number 4, the historic rooftop sign location should be thoroughly documented before removal so that it can be reinstalled in the future after restoration. And Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, our historic preservation officer is here, Desiree Aranda. She's available for questions, and of course the applicant is here again to present.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Maria. Yep. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on a second, Rick. I have a couple administrative things here. So Maria, this has notes, number 1 and number 2. The way I'm reading them have potential to change the project. or modify the project?
Uh,
Are we going to go in a circle? Or I think we've run into this before, and we can make recommendations, but if they have to make significant change based on SHPO, they come back. Or
yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, yeah, if the design ends up being modified significantly, or even during construction, we see that sometimes with projects that they realize once they go in and they start working on them that they need to do some modifications. If those modifications are significant, yeah, they will need to go back to the PRS and the DRB.
okay, so I guess the directive that I'm kind of hearing implied is move forward as it's shown. If changes are required, we do this again.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Rick, take it away.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for having us again. Thanks, Maria, for the introduction and the update as to where things are at. So maybe since there was a courtesy review, again, thanks so much for doing that recently on this. What would be the best way to proceed? Chris, would you like me to run through the entire presentation again too, or I can kind of specifically talk about, I mean, the only things that have been edited since the last time we all looked at this was the comments from PRS. So I'd be happy to go over those. What would be the best interest of the board?
I was thinking about this before. Just a quick kind of straw poll with the board. Was there anyone that wasn't? I can't remember who was at that last meeting. I probably could have looked at the minutes, so we just looked at them before I approved them. But is there anyone that here on the board that wasn't at that meeting last week that's seen this project before?
I believe we were all there.
I think we were all there. It was like a rare meeting that we were all at. All right.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, that's
Dan,
correct, Mr. Chair. All of the DRB members were present.
Right. And Dan, I think you and Cade had to jump off a little earlier before we were done, but I don't remember significant conversation happening after you guys jumped off.
Yeah, we saw the bulk of the presentation and the images that the applicant put forth. So I think Cade, I don't want to speak for Cade, but I think we're pretty familiar with what the project is and what it consists of.
Sure. That's kind of where I was headed. So Rick, I think this is for formality. I think if you could still just kind of step through the project just to get it on record within our formal review. But I think you could not drill in as much as you did before, and maybe focus on things that may have changed or discussion topics between last meeting and now. But I'd like to kind of just jump right into our review criterion as quickly as possible and move through this. It seemed like we were all kind of on the same page before, but that last meeting was a courtesy review. Now we're really going to hammer you and drill on you with the details.
All right, yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for that. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Well, yeah, in the interest of not rehashing everything, but Benjamin Supply, very, very exciting project, at least for all of us. I hope for everybody in the community as well too. I think it's going to be amazing. So glad these guys are making this investment. Building is divided into 3 sections: the Art Deco kind of original entry on the west side, the tower in the middle, and then sort of what we're calling like the one-story warehouse building on the on 6th Street there as well. These images have the renderings have not been updated. One other update that I'll give you as well too is the PRS did encourage us to meet with both the City Historic Preservation Officer and the State Historic Preservation Officer. We were very fortunate that Desiree was able to meet with us on Tuesday. We actually met with Desiree and Maria as well on Tuesday, and went through everything with them that we could. And then we do have a meeting with SHPO this afternoon. Unfortunately, the meeting with SHPO wasn't able to occur before this meeting. But so we are in process on those portions of the PRS comments. So I've got a couple updates, but not everything has been updated on these renderings because we haven't received kind of the final feedback from the SHPO. but I'll run through. These notes here in the presentation, these are, and if you remember from last time, the kind of 15, renewable compliance items and how we felt like we were addressing those items, as well as sort of the 10 standards for rehabilitation of historic buildings from the Secretary of Interior Standards, and again, how we felt we were addressing those. We have our development package and landscape package and shade study, and the existing photos of the building in its current state. The site vicinity in context. And a few renderings. A couple of floor plans just to give you a sense as to the interior scope of the work. Okay, and then these elevations, what I was hoping to show the board here, if you can see, this is kind of divided into 3 elevations of the same wall here. The top one is the demo, or essentially the existing elevation that was in there. The middle section here was, I believe, what we had kind of proposed previously, and then the lowest one down here is the updated elevation based on the comments that we received from PRS. And so just pointing out those couple changes that we did maintain the sort of, there's a little bit of a cornice entryway detail on this northwest corner that is being maintained down here. There's existing windows that have to be redone, but instead of doing them as flat glazed panels in there, there will be divided lights to match the existing ones that were previously there, so you can see the continuity of that. And then the other piece on this as well is that these existing 3 openings with, again, these windows have passed their useful service life, but we will be replacing them kind of in kind, same size, scale, position, and divided light character that you see here in the same scenario as well too. So those were the kind of facade updates on the west side. And then similar story on the north side here. Again, you can sort of see these 3 elevations in their same reference. What we've done here is, again, these 3 windows that have passed their service life are being redone in the same exact location, same style, portion, divided lights. I believe that's the main update there too. So we are talking to SHPO, as I mentioned, this afternoon for kind of clarification on some of the larger glass elements, mostly in this northwest corner, and how
Hey, Rick,
there are.
can I
Go ahead,
please? Is that stop sharing button showing on your screen? Can you hit the hide? It looks like you redacted the whole first floor.
I thought that was just for me. I apologize. Can you see now?
Yep, good, thank you.
Okay, yep. Yeah, so I believe hopefully that helps. I don't think there was anything down here on the first level that button was interrupting, but yeah. And then, as I mentioned, we are discussing these openings with the SHPO's office. We do, the Secretary of Interior Standards has these technical services bulletins, specifically on buildings. There's a whole section on buildings that were industrial buildings that are no longer, that have to change their use. If you have, factories or storage buildings that's no longer a viable use for them, and they change into, whether it's residential or it's retail. There's a lot of information out there on how to navigate that. So that's been part of our approach. There's another whole service bulletin on kind of industrial buildings and how you deal with sort of, maintaining the structural framework of the building, and that make sure the structural character or the solidity of the building gets maintained. So those are all the pieces that we've been looking at it from our perspective as we've been moving through, but we're excited to have the conversation with the SHPO this afternoon. I believe there's a few other, there's the window schedules in here. Those are the updates based, that are, would be different from the call that we had previously on this. So does anybody have, or is there Is there any
Rick.
questions?
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing I wanted to add too is that we also thoroughly documented the location of the roof sign, and so we've addressed all 4 conditions that PRS had.
Thanks, Rachel.
Rosemary?
Yeah, thanks. So a couple questions. One, are the renderings up to date or just the elevations?
The renderings are not up to date, just the elevations.
Okay, and my other question is, the windows that you're looking at preserving, are they in the same plane as this new glazing, or are they in the back behind the new glazing?
The windows that are being these divided light windows here, they're in the
Yes.
same plane as they currently are. So that wall that's currently there is set back. There's relief between the grid and that infill wall. And then you know, if you recall from our previous meeting, those infill walls are ceramic brick construction that are failing really rapidly, and so we're replacing that wall with a framed wall, but it would be at the same plane as the wall currently exists. So you have the same amount of relief, and then the window would have the same relief that it presently does as well.
So you're saying that the divided light windows are in the same plane as that large glazed area that you're showing?
Same plane as the large. This one. So this, in between each one of these grids here, that wall is set back just a little bit by 4 inches. So there's a little bit of relief around that wall. That the new glazing system that we're proposing here is set back into that grid system at the same amount of relief at 4 inches as well. And then these new divided light windows, or the divided light windows that we're redoing in the same spot, would be at the same plane that they currently are in there as well too, which is flush, which I think is set back just enough for the trim that they kind of have on there inside that infill wall. Does that help? Am I clarifying that or making that more confusing?
And then there's new glazing outboard of that. Am I understanding that correctly, or no?
There's no new glazing outboard of that at all.
All the glazing and all the walls are in the same plane as they were before. There's no change to the depth of the glazing.
Okay. All right, well, I guess my initial thought is, you know, with respect, I think the design you came with last week was a lot more aesthetically pleasing than what we're seeing here, and I get what you're trying to do by integrating the historic aspect of the building, but my opinion architecturally is that those divided light panels are very distracting, and they don't really look like they go with the rest of your design. And I think what you're doing with the Art Deco portion of the building by preserving that makes sense historically, but you're doing something completely different with this corner, and it just seems like those divided light windows no longer belong there. Just my 2 cents.
Sure. Thank you for that.
I guess Rosemary, is your concern that the panels whole grid being glazing versus not glaze, or being, I mean, that seems to be would be a common ploy we were doing with a historic versus not historic, like that whole north corner looks new versus the rest of the building looking pretty similar to what it is currently. So there's a stark delineation between new work and old work.
Yeah, that's basically it, Chris. I feel like it just looks like it doesn't belong, and I would rather see a clear delineation between a new design and a historic design that's being preserved, rather than, you know, saying, oh, we're going to keep this little piece of it and then do something new with the rest of this corner. It just seems like it no longer serves the design of the building.
So like there's an opportunity to do something with those big glazing portions to make them actually look dramatically different or have that differentiation? More like they popped out 5 inches versus popped in 5 inches, so, something like that. Is that where you're heading? Or is it just
Yeah,
there's that much glass versus, what we've seen before, which is that infill panel?
Rosemary, I had a question for you. This is Paige.
Sure.
When you were saying what you were saying, I think the way I interpreted it was that the new windows that we're adding, even if we're replicating the same location, you think they would look more appropriate as a single pane rather than a multi-pane. That's what I thought you were saying, but
Exactly,
maybe that's not
yes.
what you were saying. Yeah, that's
That
what I
is
thought
what
you were
I'm saying.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And again, just my opinion, but it just doesn't look like it belongs with your design.
Yeah, we're just walking the line between what historic wants and what we presented initially is what we felt was correct architecturally, and we felt there was justification, but we're responding to the PRS comments and trying to please all parties.
I get it.
Grace, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think I had a similar question to what Rosemary was asking initially. The new windows that are more kind of square in proportion are screened. They're behind like a new infill sliding metal screen. It looks like from the previous rendering notes. Are the new divided light windows behind that screen as well?
In this iteration, they're not behind the divided lights. They're
Okay,
they're
gotcha.
not behind the screen. Those lights or those windows are unscreened. And then just to reiterate again too, and following up from our meeting last time, it's a historic building. We love the historic building. We love the nature of this building. It's amazing. It's 108 years old, beautifully constructed, has some failing parts, want to redo. And then the biggest issue that we've been struggling with as an office on this is just that we're changing this from a storage to a retail use. Clients are great. They're coming in and saying, geez, if we're going to spend this amount of money to activate 2, 3, and 4 with new elevators, new stairs, new fire suppression, new everything to make this happen, they're just saying, like, they're like, we have to have some transparency that people understand we have a business on 2, 3, and 4. They're like, if we don't do that, it doesn't make sense, and it's hard to argue against that as well too. So we've looked at lots of iterations of this building while we've been in the design process too, and we're trying to be as Paige mentioned, we're trying to walk the line and trying to kind of please all parties. But just for what it's worth, we're trying. That's another part of this as well too. If that factors in, I'm not entirely sure, but I did want to let you know kind of like the ownership sort of perspective on this as well too, and where they're at for their operations to make this kind of a viable, successful building. And ultimately, we do also feel like the best way to kind of preserve some of these buildings is to keep them activated and to keep life in them, because I think that's the way to carry the continuity of these buildings, so that they stay maintained and they stay used, and they don't just kind of deteriorate and fall apart slowly.
I guess I'll push it back into your world, Rosemary, a little bit. Like, is this a strong sticking point, or is that kind of maybe you can do better talking point?
Maybe I need to understand that elevation better. Do you have a section through that part of the building?
I don't have a section in these drawings.
While Rick is looking for that section, Rosemary, one thing we are going to discuss with SHPO this afternoon are specifically those windows, and because our preference would still be to make them single panes of glass, but we want their perspective as well to see what they say, because then after that, then we can go back to PRS with what, because they asked us to discuss this with SHPO. So that is one of the things that we are going to discuss this afternoon. And whether that window is divided or it's a single pane, from a from a materiality perspective today, I feel like that is something, we can share with you as we go forward. I don't know that we have to determine that right this second, but we are going to ask SHPO if those windows can be single pane. That is one thing we are going to ask.
Okay, I think that makes sense. And then on the other elevations where you have those divided light windows, are they also asking for those to be preserved? On all of the elevations? Okay.
When we discussed it with Desiree, and
yeah, they're back to doing.
We discussed it with
they attempted shortly
before. We because in our first presentation we didn't show those windows in the same spot or exactly the same proportion. So now we're doing that. So then I think it's an easier thing to determine divided light or undivided light. But we're at least putting the openings back in the same spot, so there is less of a change from where we were to where we're going, so that historic elevation, so to speak, retains a lot more of its original character. Whether it's single light or divided light, I think can be determined.
Okay, I think that helps. Thanks, Paige.
Thank you.
So Rick, I have a couple quick questions about the rest of the site and your layout. You're not looking for or asking for any relief or changes to any setbacks, landscape borders, parking lot requirements or things like that we would normally this board would normally be looking at. This is one of the few projects we get in the downtown that actually has a parking lot attached to it. So this is kind of exactly. we don't see that a lot. A lot of these projects we get through here are smashed into existing structures that are in rows or within the urban fabric. So the parking lot is it's meeting everything we need. Development Services is taking care of their end of that job. And there's nothing we really need to drive into on that as far as wanting special condition.
Correct. Yeah. So just to reiterate, there's no all existing buildings not adding any square footage, so there's no change in setbacks or any of the area coverages or anything else like that. So we are going from like a dirt area to a new parking lot that's brought all the way up to standards. We did it is under parked, so we did go through the IPP process with the city, and we did have that approved in the fall. So it does meet the standards for development services. And no issue. And same thing with the landscape border. We're preserving our landscape borders.
Awesome. One thing I didn't notice looking at it before, I wasn't realizing that the aviation extension rolling through there already has a bunch of landscaping. So your actual landscape, visually, the landscape border around your parking lot is, twice or 2/3 bigger than it's going to visually be a very wide buffer between your parking lot and the sidewalk and that little extension leg down and even onto 6th Street. So
it is, yeah.
That's going to be a real positive to this project. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we thought the landscape was since there's a lot of it's a little bit of an industrial area around there, and there's a lot of there's aviation at 6. There's a lot of traffic and noise and non-porous surfaces up there. Doing a nice landscape was really important to everybody on this project team as well too. So I think I think that it exceeds kind of the minimum requirement there in terms of the number of trees and planting and things like that too. But it should be a really nice area for all the patrons of the building.
All right. Do we have any? Dan just had to drop off. So Maria, can you note that he dropped off at 9 o'clock?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I don't. Architecturally, I'm not an architect. I like where you guys are heading, but I understand the concerns like that Rosemary and Grace brought up. That's something you're gonna have to work out with kind of PRS and SHPO, right? And otherwise, I think I'm ready to move through our I don't really have any other questions for you guys. Anyone else on the board have discussion points, comments, things we need to talk about before we start moving through the approval or, checklist?
I did have a quick question, but I don't know that it's going to make it much of a difference in our checklist, more of a curiosity thing. I see on the window schedule that we're going to kind of telegraph the size of the stair, the risers that kind of angle across the storefront on the first floor. Is that true of the floors above as well?
Shane, maybe you can help with on the window schedule. These ones here, are these the interior parts of that, Shane?
Yeah, so that's just on the first floor, just as that riser comes up to the second.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I guess just kind of going back to my initial point, if it does turn out that those divided light windows have to be part of the elevation, I'd be curious to see if you could maybe go back and figure out a way to integrate them a little bit more into the design that you have going.
So then say that, we send it to them and tell them that.
You mean kind of rework the divided light windows?
Disregard the previous one and save this one. And also.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm mentioning. Yeah. So, again, not part of our purview really, just architecturally. It seems like you had a great thing going, and I'd love to see those integrated a little bit more rather than kind of looking like not an afterthought exactly, but just I'd like to see you integrate that grid work into your single pane, if there's a way to do that.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's great comment here. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I guess they kind of do. They almost look like leftovers, like it goes like little scraps you had left over. You're just kind of like, I'll just leave it, which is what they're asking you to do. So you're kind of stuck in a hard spot. But yeah, those are all good. We're all kind of design professionals. And we get the open opportunity to give subtle critiques and bonus points on comments. So it's kind of a fun reason we're on this board.
Sure.
I'd say, Maria, let's jump into our checklist. I think, and I know I read through before we did the courtesy review. Rick, you and your team do a pretty good job of coming in prepared, and you kind of click through all of them. We're like, yeah, this is how we're meeting these criterion. So at least you're understanding where we're coming from, and that's appreciated. That you understand where you are. There's some applicants that come through. We get to a certain point on this, and they're like, oh, okay, and they haven't done their homework. So
sure,
professionally, it's appreciated.
Oh, great, good.
And there's so many of these that are for new construction that we should probably, I would assume we can probably skip through a lot of these. Proposed buildings shall respect the scale. That's more for a new building. You're protecting and respecting scale by keeping in a building. New construction must be consistent with prevailing setbacks. Keeping an older building, that's number 3. New construction should provide scale-defining architectural elements or details at the first 2 floors. Rosemary, I think this gets into a little bit what you were looking at. Like the first 2 floors have changed to what this building's done. We're opening up glazing, and that stairwell's going up. It seems like we're providing good scale-defining architectural elements on those first 2 floors. Is that out of?
I would agree, and Grit, to your point about activating the upper floors in a way that they hadn't been previously. I mean, I feel like that's kind of a good argument for changing the facade the way you had previously done.
Now it comes.
Yes. Yeah, opening that corner is going to bring life to that corner. So we'll see how long we can maintain that piercing of those corner squares. For commercial building frontage, shall provide windows, displays, visual activity within adjacent on the ground floor. 50% of the building frontage provide such features. I think you're doing that in spades, especially along that first floor, old warehouse or art structures and along 6th. You're opening those up away from being glass block. Any opposition to that thought? Seems like we're doing that pretty good. Single pane of facade should not be more than 50 feet without features, windows, trellises, arcades. I think you're making that even better. That old facade was pretty flat. 6, building facade design shall include pedestrian scale lighting. That's one we haven't looked at or discussed. Especially along that 6th Street facade. Rick, is there exterior lighting, and how do you have that? I don't remember discussing that the other day.
Yeah, thanks so much. There is at each one of the openings along that 6th Street facade, there's a small canopy, and there's a downlight in each one of those canopies as well too. So we to provide safety for pedestrians at night in and out of each one of those storefronts there.
Right, and I guess that your big glass corner is going to be lit up pretty brightly, especially at the ground plane, because that's where all your glazing and entering and exit is supposed to be, right?
Yep, and then there's existing lights under the Art Deco canopy that's there as well presently, so those are being preserved.
Okay. Is that good for everyone? Lighting? That seems to be one we always get hung up on. All right. 7, front doors, commercial and government buildings shall be visible from the street and highlighted by graphics, lighting, marquees, or canopies. I think you just noted that one pretty clearly, Rick. They're all getting a little bit of a canopy and some lighting to highlight them and make sure the doors are well known where they are. That's really going to change that whole streetscape. I like that idea. 8, modifications to exterior historic buildings shall be complement to the overall historic context of downtown. Respect the architectural integrity of historic facade. So I'm going to defer to my architects and make sure we're all good on where we're at. That one.
I guess that's where my prior comments would apply. So I feel like it's more respectful to the building rather than keeping little pieces of history that don't necessarily integrate well with other new functions, highlight the historic aspects of the building in other ways.
Where they're going with the PRS and SHPO, I mean, they kind of make this comment where almost, for an actual an existing historic building. I think this seems like that's almost number 8's almost one we skip over a lot of times because it's not necessarily a true historic building, but it's almost PRS and SHPO's purview to tell them that they complement historic district or context.
Yeah, I'm with Rosemary. I realized that Rick and Paige are in a tight, maybe not a tight spot, but they're being pushed around a little bit. I find it unfortunate the position that PRS took, because I think there's enough history being celebrated with those windows. I don't think the windows define the history in this case. I mean, I get it, they were there, but I also I don't want to hold it up here because really I feel like PRS is going to overrule anything we would say or has power above us. But
Yes.
you know,
Right.
I think what they're doing is good. I just think like how do you please everyone? And I don't know that that's possible all the time.
Right.
And even themselves, I don't know that. I mean, obviously, Rick said that what they presented, what they felt was the best architectural solution for the project, and PRS is pushing back. So, what do you do?
Yeah, I totally agree, Kate. I think sometimes when you compromise, rather than going with one design concept or another, it ends up being watered down, and that's what I don't want to see happen to this building.
This stuff push this. I guess I think the middle ground we might be able to interject here might be if we do a conditions that this board would prefer that those that the windows, the smaller windows that are being maintained, we would prefer that to be a single pane. I think we can make that recommendation.
I would even say the proportion doesn't necessarily. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a better solution than maybe the multi-pane, but I think letting it go is the best solution. The way they had designed it is the best solution, in my opinion. So
I agree.
Wonder if there's a compromise to be made regarding the screen. If continuing that screen in front of those historic windows would be an option, and I don't know if that is. And I'm sorry, I cut Paige off as well.
Oh, you're fine, Grace.
I think
want those
we
windows
have
to go away.
I think we have the ability to add that to a condition to our that we would be agreeable to those windows not being maintained. You know, that we think that they've hit the criteria of respecting historic character within the context of this project. That this board's not stuck on those windows being there. I feel like that would be within our purview to say, to give SHPO and PRS a little bit of that's our recommendation to them. I mean, they're going to make the final decision, but we have a voice.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I do.
Agree.
I'm like, they already
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start working on that language. Right.
I think when you look at the larger like overall face of the elevation, it's maintaining that historic design, and that window is like a minor feature within that. Not even really a feature. I guess I'm just saying, I feel like you could reframe it that like overall, when you're looking at this building and the facade of it, that it's being preserved.
And I think even the vocabulary of it's being maintained, that we understand that was a concrete grid structure that was traditionally used for warehousing. Like it still reads that way to me. Like it
yeah.
I don't think those windows add to that conversation, right? That's kind of where we're saying they weren't adding to that vocabulary. They were, I don't know why they were there, but so I think we're all on the same page, and I would think we can add that recommendation or our opinion, this board's opinion onto any motion that we make. So let's figure out how we're going to word that. So I'm looking at you guys, architecture folks, to figure out how we word that.
Tell me if this works. Our opinion is that the overall character and vocabulary of the historic design of the building's facade is being preserved without the need to maintain the divided light windows.
That's a good question.
Does that hit it? Did I miss something?
I think so. Cade, yeah,
I think that hits it. Does the rest of the team think that's specific enough? Do we need to call out but it's those divided light windows recommended on the second, third, and fourth floor, or just to be super clear with them. So there's because they are bringing back the divided light on the ground floor. So I just want to be like,
yes, I would
nail on that.
That's probably
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, great, I've added that.
We got your back, Rick. So we good? Are we good with that one? Can we move on? I think that's a pretty good point. We can.
That's good.
Okay, great. Where was I? That was 8. 9, buildings should be designed to shield adjacent buildings, public rights away from reflected. This building's doing what's been doing for 100-something plus years. They keep adding roads around it, so geez. Safe, adequate vehicular parking areas designed to minimize conflict with pedestrians, bicycles shall be provided. I think you guys have done a good job with that. And if you've gone through another review process that looked at code required parking, shading, ingress, egress, I'm not going to push back on your parking lot. You guys did what you could in there. Paige, you okay with that?
Yes.
And I'd assume, Rick, I'm going to ask questions for Carol since she's not here. That IID didn't get you out of water harvesting or any of those other kind of code requirements that are due within the city. You guys are going to kind of collect some water in those plantings and try to give them extra love.
Absolutely. All that is there's no we didn't seek any relief from that, so there is all per the city standards for all that.
Awesome. And I'm sure we talked a little bit about trees and whatnot on the on your courtesy review. We typically do a little of that, even though it's not necessarily within this checklist, but there was some comments that we had about some plant species choices that you might want to work through with your landscape architect. So I'll just add that to this conversation, make sure you guys kind of make sure things are the right size for the right space. And
yeah, and I did thank you for that. We did have a conversation, and that's being kind of looked into and addressed further as well too. So thank you for those previous comments on those plants, on those trees.
Awesome. Shade is shade. I just want more shade. But I want the trees to live. It's not worth it putting in a tree for shade if it's only going to be there for 3 years and then die and then never be replaced. That never helps anyone.
Yeah, and just maintenance to have those trees growing up like against the building is going to just create more maintenance issues.
It's going to be a challenge. 11, since I mentioned shade, that big shade provided sidewalks, pedestrian paths, using structures of vegetation were permitted. You guys had a shade, the actual shade studies, the next section down, but I think you, in my opinion, done a pretty good job of shading your new paving and new areas around your parking lot and your pedestrian ins and outs. Color palette in context of downtown. I think we looked at this the last time. We didn't have any real concerns with the color palette. It's kind of that straight color and then a little bit of rusted steel look going on. And I know you're going to catch tons of flack in the papers about the mural going away, but that's not really what this question's about. New buildings shall use materials, patterns, elements related to the traditional context of downtown. I think do we have any challenges with that one? We're good.
No, on that one, I'd just like to say I'm excited you guys are bringing that brick back and restoring that. I think that's going to be great.
Yes, especially along that 6th Street facade there, bringing that building back to some original characters. Going to be beneficial to everyone in that area. 24-hour street level activity. This one always bugs me. The 24 hours is a really hard one to do. But a mixture of retail, office, residential uses within the building. I think you're, increasing the level of activity in this building just by the change in use. Primary public entry shall be accessed from a sidewalk rather than from a parking lot. Other than that, the kind of the smaller building on the south side that you have to kind of go up and around. I think that you're pushing your main entry to the corner, right? To the north corner of the building.
Correct.
Right, like that's going to be a big change to this and make this thing a lot more street visible, right? And then obviously your entrances of the 6th Street spaces all enter exit right onto 6th Street, right? Are we good with this one? Anyone have any comments? No, we're good. Next section here. Parking area access lanes. Building should have pedestrian circulation paths between the PAL and the building, minimum of 6 feet. I did see one pathway kind of cutting through the middle. Just make sure that's 6 feet. There was one running east-west. Rick, right? That kind of connects that outer ring of parking to kind of the loading dock area.
Yep. They're all wide. It's deceiving because the site is so large, but they're all wide scales. Yeah.
Let's just make sure that's 6 feet so we can check that box. Ingress, egress, it's really, it seems like you did a pretty good job with that. And if you went through the IID, I'm going to trust that they hit your ingress, egresses to meet code and safety requirements. Make sure that that's all meeting our standards as a city.
Just to clarify, that walkway is 8 feet wide.
There you go. Perfect. I was hoping someone had CAD open on the side screen.
It took me a second to get there. Sorry about
that. Parking, general parking standards listed in 7.4. Some properties may be located in the downtown parking, allows reduction in numbers. It seems like that's where you guys headed. That's what that provides. Screening of parking. From the adjacent streets, pedestrian arcades, occupied space, or displayed space. It's not a new parking lot. You're kind of doing with what you have available, right? You're using the same space. And the additional landscaping that, as I was speaking to earlier, having the buffer from the streets and then yours is, double width of landscape buffer between the street, pedestrian space, and your parking. That's going to benefit this whole project, and it makes me feel more comfortable with 2B. You have a lot of visible screening between you and parking in the street. Paige, you all right with that one?
Yes.
Awesome. Employee parking for all uses shall be provided at the remote locations. We'll figure out where employee parking is going to be. It's a pretty good sized parking lot for them. And there's other parking available in the adjacent spaces. Let's see, plazas at open space. Encourage public and private investments to bring a function of downtown's pedestrian environment. 5% of the gross floor area of new construction. We're not in new construction, so we can't really change the way that building's proportioned. It does feel to me that loading dock's becoming more of a plaza space than it was before. And you kind of have a little bit of that expanded paving at the north corner there too at your main entrance, right? So it's kind of almost creating a quasi public plaza space. That's kind of nice. Views of historic properties and natural elements surrounding downtown should be considered during design. Open spaces should be cited to include views of other public spaces where feasible, and linkages to your neighborhood are maintained throughout downtown. I think you guys are meeting those. You're keeping an existing historic building. Streetscape design. I like the way your streetscapes are being done. Any comments on streetscape design? Any challenges on there or any questions? No. Hearing none. Shade, you provided a shade study. Looks pretty good to me. I think that's the end of our list. Right. Where's our number 5? I can't remember. Shade's the last one usually. What to do? Any other discussion points on items that we went through there? Was there anything else that caught anyone's attention as we moved through those? We moved through them pretty quickly. Anything else other than I think it was number 8, Rosemary, right?
That's all I have.
All right, Rosemary, since you have that written down in front of you, you want to do the whole readout?
Sure, happy to. The Design Review Board has reviewed the applicant's project for compliance with Rio Nuevo area design criteria and recommends to the Planning and Development Services Director approval, finding the project in compliance with the design standards set forth in UDC section 5.12.7C 1 through 15 and 5.12.7D, subject to the following recommendation. With respect to SHPO and PRS, this board finds that the overall character and vocabulary of the historic design of the building's facade is being preserved without the need to maintain divided light windows recommended on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors.
Any amendments to that discussion? I'll second that, Rosemary. Go to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those in opposition? Hearing none, Maria, that was unanimous. Good luck with SHPO and PRS, Rick and Paige. Hope this project moves forward quickly. It's a building that desperately needs it.
Thank you all very much
Thank you.
for
Thank you very
all the
much.
efforts and for the great feedback and comments. We really appreciate this board and everything you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And I have to say, I really appreciate your recommendation. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Hope you win.
Good luck.
Thanks. Good luck, guys.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
I know. All right.
Thanks.
Take care, y'all.
All right. Bye.
Any announcements, Maria?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, the next case that you will be seeing in the near future, it's the rehab of the hotel, the old Arizona Hotel on Broadway, the multi-story hotel that is next to the Plaza de la Mesilla, where the Flynn apartments are, the former Placita Village.
Yeah.
So they're working on that whole building, and it's gonna have to go through PRS first, though, before coming to you, because they are their site includes a portion of the ECPO, historic landscape. So, and they are proposing some modifications next to it, and also on the southern portion of the ECPO, historic landscape. So it's gonna go through PRS, so I'm estimating it may come to you sometime in April.
Can we encourage a courtesy?
We did, however, they already submitted the plans for review, but I'll go ahead and they did a courtesy review with the PRS. But I will encourage them to come to you before the formal review again.
Is that Swain Associates?
Yes, that's correct. And the other project that is coming to you also in the near future and also has to go through PRS, the former Euro building on Scott that you reviewed recently for that access that they provided now on the main facade. They're coming back with solar carports in their parking lot.
Oh.
So you'll be seeing that as well. And there's a third one. We're still working with the applicant. They don't need PRS review. We'll go straight to DRB. That's in, I believe it's Barrio Viejo, next to Barrio Viejo. It's single family residence. It's there, but what they're proposing is new storage containers for personal use on their property, and they're in the RNA, so they need to come through you.
Oh, I have a feeling that one's gonna be tough. The easy one, the ones that sound easy are the ones that we sit here for 2 hours.
So yeah,
I think Maria on those, as far as something I would like to see is with that Arizona hotel, since it's impacting or potentially impacting that ECBO or fountains in that space. Through our criteria, our checklist, that's kind of in between. It's kind of in the gray area of what we have review structure in. But I know Carol's gonna want to know more about that, just so she can have a voice here when she's not here. I have a feeling she's gonna want to really dig into that, and so I think having some strong guidance from staff on what we're really looking at, and so we can stay focused on things that we need to review, or if there's other, or if there's things that we need to focus on as far as that stuff goes. It's concerning to me that there's even just the first out of your first description of the project is it could affect historic landscape spaces. Is it's immediately raising flags. So,
and the Surrey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they went and are going back to some Pima County Historical Commission's Historic Landscape Subcommittee. It's not a requirement for RNA review. However, I guess they also inform the PRS. So hopefully we'll get some specifics of their motions before we come to DRB.
Okay, that'd be great. Or just a good understanding of what other regulatory steps that project would need to be going through, so we can understand what we'd be making recommendations to or about.
Yeah, they will need to meet Secretary of Interior standards. And Desiree, please kick in.
Yeah. So the project team did go to the Historic Landscape Subcommittee of the Historical Commission, presented a courtesy review. And they gave, HLS gave some feedback. My understanding is the project team has incorporated some of their ideas. They also went to PRS for a courtesy review, so they've already gotten a lot of good input, and have been pretty responsive. I think they're planning to go back again to HLS. But yeah, it's really just it's a pretty small portion of the actual whole property or the project area that's, part of that. So yeah, but the team seemed receptive to what was recommended.
Good, right? Okay, great. I have a sneaking suspicion, Marie, if we can keep that one to be its own meeting and not have 3 other ones stacked up with it, I have a feeling that's going to be a long review.
Okay, we'll take note of that, Mr. Chair.
If we don't have anything else, let's get out of here and start our day. Anyone have
Thank you so
anything
much.
else?
As always. No, that's all I have.
Thank everyone for their input today. I thought that was all good, positive stuff that we brought to the table today. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
9:38.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
9:38.
weekend.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.